Hey y'all, it's Josh from the Jobs Class, and today I want to talk to you about interview tips for being a school founder, interviewing to be a principal, assistant principal, dean, instructional coach, dean of students, really any role that's in school leadership. So today, as we go through, we're going to talk about what does it mean to be a school leader. We're going to talk about it from the context of being a school founder, but really these are tenets that make a strong school leader no matter which seat you are in. We're going to talk about how to tell your personal leadership story, how to quantify the results you've gotten in your classroom, being a grade level chair, department chair, or serving in a school leadership capacity already. We're going to talk about how you manage people or projects. And then finally, we're going to talk about how, as you move into a school leadership position, you do work with the community and not to a community. Today, we are talking about school founder fellowships. However, there are 151 school leader positions on the jobs blast as of this morning. Right now, the school founder fellowships I'm personally recruiting for that you can reach out to me to ask questions about are the Colorado Legacy School Founder Fellowship, and that is to open a school in any city in Colorado that would be single site. It's a 2-year fellowship that has a rigorous curriculum to get you prepared. The Excellent Schools New Mexico Future Schools Fellowship, again, to open anywhere in the state of New Mexico, also a 2-year fellowship. There is the New Schools for Alabama Fellowship to open a school in any community in the state of Alabama. And finally, Mind Trust is opening up a fellowship called the North Star Fellowship in Connecticut, where, again, a rigorous program to prepare you and think through the charter authorization process, getting a facility, hiring a staff, developing an academic North Star, and making community partnerships. We're going to give you a tool today that will help you work through this on your own because I believe that to be prepared for a job interview, it's really important to have a mental model already laid out where you've thought through your leadership story key points as well as the things that you've accomplished. You don't want to be spending your mental energy trying to recall these things in an interview. You want to be focusing on making sure that you're clearly communicating what you've accomplished. Again, these are very briefly those fellowships I talked about, but the legacy one pays $125,000 a year over 2 years, per year over 2 years. The New Mexico Future Schools Fellowship has a $110,000 stipend for the first year, and your salary is set by your founding board of directors in your second year. New Schools for Alabama is just releasing their application, so we're excited for you to check it out. And then the North Star Fellowship has a salary midpoint of $137,500, and that salary is based upon your previous experience. So let's talk about what it takes to found a school. From my perspective, the school leader position has really shifted from before COVID, during COVID, and now that we're back in brick and mortar buildings after COVID. Whether you're going to start your own school or whether you're stepping into principalship, assistant principalship, or school leadership at an existing school, I think that these things are true. Number one, you have to have the ability not to quit. You need fortitude and perseverance so that when the things get tough, you keep going. You need the ability to compartmentalize because there's a lot of external noise. Right now, social media, traditional media, families, community members, people want access to you and your faculty, and you have to be able to set a vision alongside all of those stakeholders, but then stay true to that vision without getting distracted by all of the different noise that's out there. You also have to have the ability to compartmentalize for your faculty and staff, because if you're doing well, but your faculty and staff aren't doing well, you're going to have turnover. Finally, you need to be able to ground your leadership in your compelling why. Why are you doing the work? And why are you the right leader for that position at that school, in that community, at that time? What we know is that a principal that was right for a school in 2005 may not be the same principal profile for that same school in the year 2025 because communities and schools evolve. You need experience managing people. And if you haven't managed people, experiencing managing complex projects where you got to coordinate people to accomplish a goal. You need to be able to have an academic North Star that thinks through proficiency and growth for every student and holds the same high bar for every student in your school community. That academic North Star is not something that you create in a silo, but it's something that you've developed with your faculty and staff, your families, and your community members, so that way it's not living in a vacuum. You need the ability to build and maintain strong partnerships and relationships because when the going gets tough, you need people in your corner that understand your why, even if they disagree with one particular decision. Finally, this is the one I hear from transitioning teachers all the time. The strongest leaders that they follow to new schools are the ones that are confident and know what they're doing and where they're going, but they're not arrogant. In the next few slides, we're going to talk through how to refine your own personal story and how to be prepared for an interview. And I'm going to give you opportunities that you could pause and prepare yourself, or you could watch the entire video and prepare at the end. The first thing is thinking about how to tell your story. Why are you the right candidate at the right time for this right community in this particular role? For example, if I was going back to the very first school that I taught in Helena, Arkansas, in the Mississippi Delta at Kip Delta High School, and let's say I was going to be the principal. They don't have a principal opening, their principal is great. I'm just saying if I was interviewing there, I'd go back and say, when I started my career in Helena, Arkansas, I thought that I was joining Teach for America for 2 years. What I've realized 19 years later is that the impact that we have on students and families and our community through our day to day work is powerful. And I'm looking to come back to Helena because that's where I started. And I see the roots for myself and my leadership in this community. And I feel like where we're going in the next 5 years to think through career and college readiness for our high schoolers means that my expertise in building high school profile is right for the further expansion of our school. I'm going to pause there and let you think about what's your specific why for your specific community and the specific role that you're thinking of. Okay, we're going to move on from the story to making sure that within the story, you are inserting quantifiable results that a hiring manager or a committee can hear to know that you're the right leader. When you think about quantifiable results, these are state assessments, these are year over year proficiency gains, these are growth measures, these are norm reference assessment results, but these also can be what percent of your faculty have come back year over year? What percent of your students have re-enrolled? What artistic awards or music awards has your school accomplished? What athletic teams have you fielded? What math competitions have you won? It doesn't just have to be state test results, but you do want to show that the health of your school in terms of accomplishing things for students matters and that you've kept track of those. You also should be able to say what your contribution was to creating the culture and conditions so all adults could thrive. I'm going to pause there to have you look back through and write down your quantifiable results. Moving on, let's talk about how you've managed people. And if you haven't managed people, manage projects. You need to be able to say what people or projects have you managed. You need to think about what did you do. You need to think about what did you learn about yourself. And quite frankly, you need to be able to speak to what would you do differently and what would the people that worked with you or for you say about your leadership. I'm going to pause there and let you think about a team that you've managed or a project you've managed and those prompts. The final thing we're going to talk about is doing work with communities and not to communities. One critique of the charter school movement over the last 30 years has been that oftentimes they have come in to a community and sometimes brought an academic model or a vision with them that was not informed by community history, culture, or perspective. You should speak to if you are stepping into an existing school or you are stepping into a community with a founding school, how are you going to already know about that community's culture and history? Or how are you going to listen and learn? So, thinking about the community that you want to step into, take a moment to think through what do you already know about that community and what are you going to learn about that community? And I'll pause there. Okay, as we wrap up, the last thing I'm going to show you is the actual tool that will be linked in the show notes. But this is a guide that I think would be really good preparation for any interview for any role. But it helps you think through, why are you the right person for that role? What have you accomplished related to that role? And being able to communicate that clearly and concisely. If you have questions, you can always email me or send me a LinkedIn message. Thanks for stopping by.